All right, guys, welcome to the My Father podcast, previously known as the Broken Lens podcast. Did you know that, Fernando?
I didn't.
Yeah, I had a podcast before, and it was called Broken Lens, and I did it on my photography page. And I realized that I interview guys, I talk about guy stuff, and,
Right.
and guys aren't my clientele in photography. So I switched it to My Father. I feel like it was a better place for it, you know?
Yeah.
I think that the content is pretty much guys oriented anyway, so it has a home now.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so the reason I asked you is because I'm very curious about your fitness journey and your weight loss journey and just everything entitled with that. What started it all off?
So I've always been underweight my whole life. Growing up, I was always a skinny kid. I actually didn't get up into my what's considered normal weight range until I was an adult, and I mean like well into an adult. I'm talking at least mid-20s, and I'm in my early 30s now. But I saw a huge shift at the beginning of COVID. In the first month or two, I'd realized that I had gained a bunch of weight, and I'm talking like 30 pounds. That just came from out of nowhere because, like I said, I've always had trouble gaining weight.
Yeah.
But, which I was kind of excited about. I'm like, oh, I can be a little, a thicker kid for once, Because, growing up, I would try to consume as much as I could, and I just couldn't gain weight. So I was always a skinny kid. So anyways, what started me actually like trying to get to move and stuff is everything that came along with that. So I noticed that I was snoring a lot. I was really labored when I try to do simple tasks, and I'm like, man, this is not okay. Like, this isn't normal. I need to start doing something.
Yeah.
So for me, I wanted to do. I've always been intimidated by gyms. Most likely because I'm not familiar with them, and then just stepping in that environment is very foreign to me.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had a gym membership, and I've had a gym membership. I had a gym membership for well over a year, but I never used it for that simple reason. So I was like, well, I'm gonna research something that I can do at home. But most importantly, diet. I want to figure out what I could be eating, what I should avoid eating that will get me to where I want to go. Now, my plan specifically was to lose fat but gain muscle at the same time, which is kind of hard to do. Mm-hmm. So I researched with an open mind, just different diets and eating habits and lifestyles. And I said, if I land on the research being vegan, that's going to get me to where I want to go, then that's the approach I'm going to take.
You didn't care what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't care what it was. I just wanted to land on what was going to get me to where I wanted to be in a healthy way. And I landed on a carnivore diet.
Okay.
Which I never thought about doing before, but the research behind it backed up so much. And I've been researching health and nutrition now for about 1.5 years, like deeply researching it, not just like, I've been looking at studies and research, seeing what does work, what doesn't work.
Have you done diets in the past, or you've never needed to, right?
Never.
Okay. Yeah.
So I wasn't too familiar with diets to begin with. Now I'm more familiar with all sorts of diets that people have never even heard of before. But I wanted to land on one that worked for me, that was healthy and that was sustainable. That because people jump on diets and they're like, I'm gonna be, keto, or I'm gonna do paleo or vegan or whatever, and then they realize that that's not sustainable for their lifestyle. And they can't deal with doing that all the time for the rest of their life. So it's different for everybody, but you got to find something that you're going to be able to do and do long term, not something that you're going to be able to do till you get the weight off and then go back to your old habits.
So you're gonna do this for the rest of your life.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do a modified version of what I'm doing. I'll probably move more into keto. I was really actually I've kind of moved that way now. I was really strict carnivore just because after I learned about the way plants affect your body, what causes inflammation in your system. Like, I learned so many technical terms and things about your body that I never thought I would know before.
For the record, everyone, he's not a doctor, so don't.
I'm not a doctor at all by any means.
I feel like I need to throw that in there just so we're covered.
Yeah. And my way is not the only way, but for me, it's the only way, just because anything that I gravitate towards away from this high protein, low carb diet, which is pretty much carnivore, is going away from what I want.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's kind of what got me into it to begin with, was I gained weight and it kind of got out of control. So since then I've lost about 35 to 40 pounds, and I've also gained a lot of muscle in the process.
Wow.
A
Yeah.
whole lot. I'm only about 6 months in. So 2
Yeah.
years from now, I'll be probably where I want to be. But
35, 40 pounds isn't bad for 6 months. That's
Yeah.
that's pretty good, man.
Yeah. So the more I started learning about it, I started realizing that fitness and nutrition is the most outdated information that people have. Everything from breakfast being the most important meal of the day, that's completely false. There's no truth to that. There's no studies behind that will show you that that's proof. Actually, that actually came from a Wheaties commercial in the 80s, where they said breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and then they ran with it, and here we are still 30 years later, and people
It was an ad.
It was an ad.
It was an ad that started that whole trend, huh?
Yep.
Wow.
Also, like the food pyramid, that's completely backwards and outdated from the 70s. But the good thing is like now, within the last year or two, there's actually updated studies that actually disprove these studies and actually show you why they're false, and shows you what you can do to better your lifestyle and your diet. So for example, we read shipping, or not shipping labels, we read nutrition labels all the time, right? To see how many calories, how many carbs, how many minerals and vitamins are in things. That stuff is completely there's no purpose for that. And I'll tell you why. Like nutrition labels, like I was talking about, you read the nutrition labels and it tells you that you've consumed, if you eat that product, you consume 6% of your daily iron intake, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you were to take all the vitamins and minerals that you're supposed to consume in a day, and you were to condense that in the foods that you could eat the least amount of, and still gain 100% of every mineral and vitamin that you need throughout the day, the least amount you would have to take in is 22,000 calories. Who do you know that can consume 22,000 calories in one day just to get your benefit of
nutrition?
Your nutrition, right? So even small things that people don't think about is outdated, and there's really no purpose. I mean, obviously there's a purpose if you have a medical condition and you need to consume X amount of potassium a day, or whatever mineral it is that your doctor says, hey, you're not having enough of this, you need to supplement this morning.
Yeah.
For that reason, it does have a purpose. But for the average person, there's no need for that. The only reason I use food labels is to look at protein and carbs. That's the only two I use. And then another thing is people, I mean, I can go on for this stuff for hours, but another thing is what's really big right now is micronutrients. People count their carbs, their protein, and their fat, and they equal out an equation of each one that they need to get to where they want to be.
Yeah.
What they don't understand is that carb is not a micronutrient by definition, because you don't need carbs to survive. I don't eat carbs. I survive just fine because
are you in ketosis all the time then?
Yeah. I'm constantly ketosis. So my body runs off of fat. So most people that eat junk, their energy levels run off of carbs. So you consume carbs, that turns into energy, and you use that for fuel. Yeah. Well, my body uses fat. So all I eat is meat mostly. I eat a pound or two of meat a day, and I crunch that into a 4-hour window. So I'm intermittent fasting for 20 hours a day.
That's like the hardest part to me, man. What's been the hardest part for you of this whole journey?
Staying away from carbs.
Yeah.
It's easier once your body gets fat adapted. So once you move carbs completely out of your system and your body's now running on fat, it's easier to kill. Those cravings aren't as strong anymore. But once you start cheating, which I do, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
Once you start cheating, your body's going to start craving those carbs more and more. So it's going to be harder to stay away from them. But for the most part, I've never felt better in my life. I run off of fat. And that's my main fuel source. But yeah, carbs is not a micronutrient. To anybody listening to this, carbs is not a micronutrient. Micronutrients are things that you need in order to survive. All you need is protein and fat if you want them. Carbs can be used as a fuel, a source of fuel, which most people use, but they don't understand that you don't need it to survive.
No, I know I've talked to you about this before, but what about like the fiber and like doesn't like your stool and your gut, doesn't that need fiber to move stuff through?
Nope. Your body might need fiber if you're eating a bunch of carbs to process that through. But for like me, there's no reason. That's actually scientifically proven, even and I can send you links to all this so people don't think I'm just talking out of my butt.
Yeah, I can throw them in the show.
Because I think it's important for people to see the research and do some of the research on their own. And the research is out there. You just have to look for it, and it's not hard to find. But there's studies out there that show that your body does not need fiber. It doesn't. You don't need it to digest. It's not needed at all. So if you were to cut fiber completely out of your diet, you'd be completely fine. Now, there is certain circumstances where somebody might have a medical condition where fiber might help them with certain things. But for the average person, if you're of average health, you do not need fiber. And there's research out there, plenty of research that shows that you don't.
That's crazy.
Also, like doctors say, I've talked to my doctor. I don't even really have a doctor anymore, to be honest with you, because they don't agree with my lifestyle.
Really? With the carnivore?
Yeah.
Really? They didn't agree with it?
No. So, and everybody, I mean, there's a huge carnivore community out there, just like there is vegan or any other type of diet. And there's very few doctors that stand with it. And the reason is because all the research that doctors have in their very few 3 months of nutrition training in school and their whole 8 years of school, all that they're being taught is research based on the 70s.
Yeah.
Now there's a huge gap between old research and new research, like 30 years when it comes to health and nutrition.
No, you got me when you said the pyramid. I'm like, you're right. Everyone knows that doesn't make any sense, but I haven't seen a new one.
Right. And it's because it doesn't make sense to do a new pyramid. It just makes sense to put out the information as to why the pyramid is not something that we should be considering in our daily lives as far as what we eat every day, because it doesn't make sense. But yeah, I told my doctor, like, I want a carnivore diet. He immediately shut it down, said that you need to have a balanced diet, including pastas, fruits and vegetables, meats, breads, and all that stuff. And so we already started off on the wrong foot. And so, and then I brought up intermittent fasting, and this is every doctor I've ever talked to, which probably is like 4 altogether.
Yeah.
Not very many, but they all say the same thing. They all say, when it comes to fasting, now I'm talking specifically in regards to fasting. So there's intermittent fasting, which is, setting a window during your day to eat and then not eating outside of that window. So just having water or black coffee or tea during that. It's awesome for weight loss. It doesn't cause any health issues like a lot of people say. You're not starving yourself. There's studies that back all this up, by the way. But I also incorporate extended fasting into my life. So once a week, I'll do a 48-hour fast. Like today actually happens to be my day. So I ate last night. I will not eat today, and then I'll eat again tomorrow during my eating window in the afternoon. So I'll have gone 48 hours without eating.
Is that
sometimes I do 72 hours. I think the most I've gone is 117. That was kind of pushing it for me. But people have went 364 days without food. One of my friends just went 26 days without eating. But the thing is, he's 700 pounds, right? Or he started at 700 pounds, but he's made tremendous strides since then. He's down to the I think he's down to the low 600s, but he's incorporated, healthy eating, intermittent fasting, and extended fasting, and he's done great. Even with me specifically, like even the doctor said, this isn't the right way to do things. Your health's going to deteriorate. I've never felt better in my life. I went to go get blood work done just to prove him wrong. My blood work's never been better. So it's just crazy because I understand why it's foreign to people, because it's not something that's very common yet. But I think it's something that now that the research is out, people are going to start jumping on board with it. At least intermittent fasting, I encourage everybody to set an eating window every day and not eat outside of that window if you're looking to lose weight.
Yeah. So the benefits of that is losing weight to the intermittent fasting.
Yeah, and there's other benefits as well. a lot of people claim that, after 48, 72 hours, you get a lot of mental clarity. You start, you can focus more on things. You feel better, you have more energy, which you would think that it would be the opposite once your body's depleted. But the way that doctors approach it is that if you do extended fasting, by definition, they say that you're going to be dead in 4 or 5 days.
What?
I've went 5-6 days without food. So obviously that's not the case. My friend Matt went 26 days without food. So obviously you don't die. So what the research actually shows behind that is if you have fat on your body, which most of us do, even skinny people, you still have body fat on you for the most part. Your body's going to use your body fat as fuel while you're fasting.
Yeah.
And you're not going to starve unless you run out of body fat. So unless you're like anorexic, you're not going to die. Now,
so does it start eating muscle though too?
No, so that's been a myth as well, that it'll eventually, and doctors still believe that. Actually, that's one of the myths that people still believe, especially doctors, is that after time, certain amount of time, people think different amounts of time, your body starts not only eating away the fat, but you start losing muscle because your body's eating.
That's what I've always heard.
It's not true at all. There's research behind it. I can link it as well. The only way that your body's going to start eating muscle is if it's run out of fat.
Okay. That makes sense.
It's very hard to lose muscle mass.
Now,
I'm interested to see more research go into this piece specifically, but there is research already out there discrediting that fasting will eat your muscle.
Now, when you're working out, do you feel stronger without the carbs? Because that's what gives you the energy, right? Like a lot of people think that.
Yeah. So the workout that I'm doing right now, I go to complete fatigue. So I only work out about 10 or 15 minutes a day, but I give it 100%, and I don't stop until I can't. Like I'm on the floor in the fetal position.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because when I'm fasted for 72 hours, I'm actually able to go a lot further in my workouts than when I've eaten, which is really interesting because you think your body would be depleted of energy and you just be kind of wasted, which you do somewhat feel like that, but you'd be surprised at how much your body can handle and what you can put your body through. But after those workouts, you just feel amazing. Like now, it's almost euphoric.
Yeah, I bet. Now answer me this whole process, what's it done to your confidence?
Oh, I think it's definitely a confidence booster, and not just physically, but mentally and other aspects of your life, especially for somebody like me that has been a skinny person all their whole life. I've never had an ounce of muscle on my body. So for me, it's working from the ground up. I think a lot of people, they might have not ever been to gyms or not been, big into working out, but they still have somewhat of that structure on their body. I started from nothing, man. I was skin and bones until I gained fat, and then I was just fat and nothing, Yeah.
I
had to lose the fat and gain muscle. So I still consider myself pretty weak, but in comparison to others my size, but I was super weak when I started, and my strength has just progressed over time. And I've only been doing it like 6 months.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the confidence that comes with diligence of like, I'm not eating for 72 hours. That's got to be like, you told yourself that and you're doing it. That's like a strong fight, right? That you're having with yourself.
But for me, it even goes beyond that because, when I started early on, I was like, like anybody else or anything else, I was skeptical, and I was not looking forward to it, and I was avoidant. And this is the biggest part mentally for me is I was avoidant of being around food. I was avoidant of smelling food.
Yeah.
And after it didn't take me very long, but I was like, you know what? I need to put myself in those situations. Yep. I need to smell the food. I need to look at it, and I need to say to myself, like, I'm making this decision not to eat. Mm-hmm. I can eat if I want to. Nobody's tying my hands down from eating. But I need to be able to look at this and smell it and not avoid it any longer. So that way, when I'm out and about and I've decided to fast that day, I can be around all the food. I can be around the smell of restaurants and all of that stuff. And I still know I made the conscious decision not to eat. And I know that if I want to, I can just eat if I want to. But it's still putting yourself in those situations that make you uncomfortable to be able to grow from them. So now I can, my family makes food, and if I've decided not to eat that day, even if it's my favorite thing and it's whatever, it's my decision and I made it, and I'm gonna be around it and fight through those things.
Now, do you sit at the dinner table with them?
What's that?
Do you sit at the dinner table with them?
No, typically not. But I wouldn't have at this point. I would not have a problem doing that.
Now, is that hard for a family that you're not at the dinner table?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. But the thing is we eat, like with my diet, even I eat a lot of meat. So a lot of times it's just me throwing steaks on the grill that night. And they might not be eating that night. Yeah. They're going to eat their own thing, but we still all eat together.
Oh, so you guys, so you either sit around the same time when you do eat?
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I was asking.
It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes we do eat separately. That's just the nature of it. Maybe she's out getting working late or whatever the case may be, or the kid's off with his dad or whatever the case is. So it doesn't always work out that way, but for the most part, we do eat together. But when I'm not eating, I'm not avoidant by any means. Like I can definitely sit there with them, but I mean, I would say that's 50-50. Sometimes I'm there and sometimes I'm out doing something else. So
no, I can see,
it's definitely mental.
I can see fasting being very difficult if you don't keep yourself busy. If you have nothing to do, you're just sitting around waiting why I'm not eating. I should be eating at this time.
Yeah, it is a lot of that. And luckily I'm really busy with work a lot of the day. So that takes up a majority of the day. The part that I struggle with most is at night. But I just fill it with working out or drinking a lot of water.
Yeah.
Things like that. And there's been days where I've given in, I'm like, man, I really want to eat today. I'm just going to eat, and maybe I'll fast tomorrow. Maybe I won't.
And that's what I get on a lot of people about, is when they set these goals, I think it takes one or two hiccups for someone to completely ruin a whole goal. Like they're like, in their mind, they're like, I screwed it up. I'm not doing it no more. I can't do it. And it's gone. Yeah. But realistically, you could screw up and just get back on the wagon and be fine.
Yeah. My thing with that though is, what I would recommend to people is to stick to a diet long enough to where if you would cheat, you can hop back on. Because I think what a lot of people do is they cheat early on and then they just forget about the diet.
Yep.
But if you set the diet as a foundation of what you want to do and you followed it and you've proven to yourself you can follow it, and then you decide to incorporate a cheat day, that's fine. Like you should reward yourself. I was talking to somebody else about this before, like, don't not reward yourself. Even, a lot of people say like, what, they make the comparison to smokers. Like if you stop smoking for a long time, you shouldn't reward yourself with a cigarette, right? It doesn't make sense to do that. I think it's a little bit different with food. As long as you're able to self-control and discipline yourself. If you can't do that, then it's not going to work for you. Cheat days will not work for you.
Yeah.
Cheat days become more frequent, and then after a while you're moving backwards. Now you're gaining weight, you're losing progress. And not only that, if you fall off the diet wagon of whatever diet you're on, other things are going to suffer. Maybe like, oh, I'm starting to get fat, and like I'm not even going to work out today because I'm already just not doing it. And then now you're falling off the exercise wagon.
It's easy to get in your head like that, man. Like exactly. I'm guilty of it.
Yeah. Me too. I think we all are. So that's what I'm saying. It's really important. First of all, you have to make the conscious decision. Like, I want to make this change for myself, and I want it to be long term. Now that you've made that decision, find a diet or something that works for you that's obtainable, not something that's like, hey, I'm going to go from vegan to carnivore overnight or carnivore to vegan. Like, that's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
Any diet to jump on is very difficult in the beginning, but make it something that's measurable and obtainable by you. So
when you started, was there times you failed at the beginning?
No.
Really? You stuck it through from the very beginning?
Yeah. And the reason is because I had researched for a really long time diets. I'd researched, I read a lot of case studies. I read a lot of research in regards to dieting and nutrition. So I knew going into it, like, I planned it out. Like this day I'm going to start. I'm not going to deviate from my plan at all. And I'm going to just stay committed to it no matter what. I mean, I did. And there was one point, I think I had COVID. I'm not even sure if I did. I actually tested negative a couple of days later, but I felt completely horrible and I was in bed. And I got up that day maybe twice. One was to pee and the other one was to work out. And then I got right back into bed. I felt horrible, but I made the decision, and it was in my mind that there was going to be no excuses at all, no matter what, for me working out. And so,
you know, I feel like that's very important. When people have that little bit of doubt, like, oh, maybe, it leaves it so open.
right.
You know, oh, maybe. But when it's a for sure no, there's no question about it. I'm moving on to the next subject because that's not a question.
Right.
And I feel like when you leave that door open, kind of people are like, oh, maybe I'll start Monday. Maybe,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. The worst thing that I've done, so my rest days are on Sundays. The worst thing I done was there was one Saturday like 2 months ago where I just was not feeling working out. So I switched. I took Saturday off, but I worked out on Sunday. So I still only took one day off, but I made sure that I made up for it.
Yeah.
So
that's cool, man.
I think just having those mental, Post-it notes, as I call them, in your mind to remind yourself that there is no excuse. There's no excuse good enough unless it's, life or death. You're planning on working out and it's 6 o'clock, you get your stuff out, you get a phone call that one of your family members is in the emergency room and you got to go, and you don't get home until 2, 3 in the morning. That's understandable, right? That's, you got to rush your kid to the hospital or something like that. That's a different situation. But for me, even being sick or feeling under the weather, that's not even an excuse for me. Push through it. It might not be the best workout you've ever given, but you did more than laying in bed, right?
Yeah, no, you're right.
So that's the way I see it, and I still see it. I see it that way 6 months later today. I'm a little bit more lax about it. Even if I was still sick in bed or had a headache, I would still try to power through whatever I could as far as a workout. I would say I'm more lax on the diet side of it. Definitely the cheat days are far and few between, but they're more frequent now than they were before, which is kind of scary, but I'm mindful of it. So I know I need to start slowing down on that.
That's good that you can identify that, because it's easy. Like I said, I lost 60 pounds probably like 5 or 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I did P90X and I worked out real hard. And then I tore my Achilles and then slowly just trickled downhill, before I realized it. I'm like, fuck, it's hard to get it all back going again.
Yeah, it is hard. That's the hardest part, is starting. Yeah. And the first couple days even today, I absolutely, the worst thing for me that I hate the most is working out. Above anything, I hate working out.
To me, that was the easy part. I love working out, dude.
No, not me, man. I will never be a person that enjoys working out, but I still do it every day. Like I'm disciplined enough to do it every single day, even though I don't enjoy it. But the part that I do enjoy is the feeling afterwards.
Yep.
And then the progress that I see within myself.
Yeah.
So that's what's attractive to me when it comes to working out. The actual working out part, I will never enjoy.
I remember I wrote it all down. All my workouts I wrote down, and it was cool just to see the progression.
Right.
Ages, and like, wow, like I was blown away by where I started to where I ended at,
Yeah, for sure.
It does a lot to your mentality and like, I think confidence and everything, just kind of pushing yourself.
Not everybody's journey is the same, like mine was, I did research and I was mentally prepared to just start and not have any excuses. And for some people, it might not be that way. It might be like, let me try, doing some jumpy jacks or jump roping or lifting weights for 5-10 minutes a day, and maybe do that a couple times a week until you kind of get in the motion and stuff. I mean, because it's not going to be, just dive right into it like I did for everybody. I mean, that might be.
What I'm saying is that like, I'm telling myself I'm going to do these 10 push-ups 3 times a week. Like it's the fact that you're like, this is what I'm going to do, not what I think I'm going to do or I'm going to try to do. I think that's it. I'm going to try versus I'm going to do.
Exactly.
It's that mindset. You can start super small. I actually recommend starting small so you can build on that confidence.
Exactly. Yep. And all it takes is to start. I mean, you could have started, anybody that listened to this, you could have started yesterday. Today could have been your day 2.
Yep.
But it's not too late for today or even tomorrow to be day 1 for you. It's never
have inspired me, Fernando. I'm going to start something. I've been trying to figure out, like, if I want to do a diet, I think I'm just gonna start just eating healthier in general.
Yeah, that's a good way to start.
Yeah, just
Start cut out sugars and cut out soda, and you'll lose weight automatically.
yeah.
I don't know if I told you this before, but when I started intermittent fasting, like I didn't even know what any of this was when I started. It was all foreign to me. It took me a year to just research everything to kind of get a grasp on which avenues to go to and which ones to avoid. But intermittent fasting is just, regardless if you're on intermittent fasting is not a diet. Intermittent fasting just means I'm shortening my feeding window every day to 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. You don't want to do anything probably more than 6 or 7 hours, because then you wouldn't really get a whole lot of benefit from it. Mine's always been about 4 hours of time that I eat during the day, usually like 7 to 11 or something like that. It's always different, but it's roughly 4 or 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started doing intermittent fasting, but I was still eating crap. I was still eating carbs, pasta, pizza, candy, soda. Soda was huge for me. I was drinking like 3 or 4 cans a day. It was horrible.
Oh wow, yeah. Man, getting down.
But I did intermittent fasting. I was still eating crap for those 2 weeks, and I still lost 9 pounds, just shortening the window of
Wow.
when I was eating. Not even changing what I was eating, just shortening the window.
That's crazy. That's wow. Intermittent
So
fasting.
yeah, I encourage anybody, regardless if you're on a diet or not, intermittent fasting is a good thing. I would definitely recommend intermittent fasting before you did any extended fasting, because if you try to jump into like a 48-hour, 72-hour fast, you're probably not going to do too well. But once your body gets adapted for like a week of doing intermittent fasting and only eating for 4 to 6 hours a day, it's super easy to do fast. And there's so many benefits. There's cell reproduction, there's autophagy. Your body literally cleans itself from the inside. Just everything, all the toxins in your body get released. It's pretty much like a brand new you. All the bacteria, bad bacteria comes out of your body. All the cells in your body that are not functioning properly or are damaged, all those cells get corrected or reproduced. So it's pretty much like a brand new you if you can get to the 72-hour mark. That's when autophagy.
Really? Wow.
You're going to be in a good spot. But it's hard to get to those, 48, 72. Some people even fast for 5 days, 6 days, 10 days, 20 days. Like I said, I think the longest somebody's fasted was 364 days. That's no food, just water.
Hey, so your longest one was how long? 100 hours, or what did you say?
100. It was like 117 hours, which is about 5 days.
So when you did that, like, did you just feel like solid after? Like you just know?
No, I could have went for 100 days. So the thing with extended fasting is it's always going to be, no matter how many times you do extended fasts, no matter how frequently you do extended fasts, the 24 to 36 hour mark is always going to be rough. Yeah. You're going to get headaches. You're going to get dehydrated. As long as you give yourself some electrolytes during those hours, once you get past that mark, you're fine. It's like a veil was lifted. Like you just feel fine. You're euphoric. Like you feel good, mental clarity. You're able to focus on stuff without being like, and it's awesome. It's an awesome feeling. But once you get past that like 36-hour mark, at least for me, I can go 100 days, because after that it's cake. Wow. I don't go that far, just because I don't, I'm still somewhat of a slim guy. Yeah. So I don't need it. But I can definitely do it if I wanted to. So I don't do those 100. That's just the longest I've went. Usually mine are 48, sometimes 72 hours. And that's as far as I will go. But
wow, really?
Yeah, the benefits. I recommend anybody listening to look into the benefits of intermittent fasting if you're not already doing it. And then once you kind of get down on that, definitely look at extended fasting. You'll lose weight like crazy, and it's a healthy way to do it, regardless of what you've heard out there. You're not starving yourself. You're not going to lose muscle mass, and the research is out there. You just have to look for it. It's easy to find.
Well, send me those links, man. I'll put them.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. Yep, there's lots of research out there.
Cool, man. I really appreciate you coming on and kind of just giving us an overview of everything you've done and what's worked for you and just kind of your experience through it all, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. I encourage anybody to, even no matter how small, even if it's, I have my friend I was talking about before that's, trying on his weight loss journey. He's he's been dieting for a while now, but now he's bed bound and he can't even walk. He can't get out of bed, but he's now using like resistance bands and stuff to exercise in bed.
Good for him.
Yeah. So he's stuck with it. He's, I think today's his 9th day, and he's holding himself accountable. He's part of like 3 different groups on social media, and he posts his workout every day to hold himself accountable.
Good.
And he's got thousands of people following him now.
That's so cool, man. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's even inspired me. But yeah, I would recommend anybody, whether it's even if you don't need to lose weight, whatever your goals are, even just moving in any way during the day would be beneficial, to your health. So definitely move.
Absolutely, man. Awesome, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, man.
No worries. It was nice talking to you.
Yeah, and then I will post this video probably tomorrow, and then I'll tag you. I think I can tag you in it and everything, okay?
Sounds good, man.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.
All right. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.